Hello and welcome, gorgeous Glasglow girls. I hope you're all well, and I think I am just about live. Just going to check a few things here to make sure that we are off and running this evening. Sorry, a couple of minutes late coming on. Some late minute technical hitches, as can happen with these live setups. And I am also using someone else's PC today, so I hope this works for me. Anyway, welcome and thank you so much for joining me to take a look this evening at high performance anxiety. And you know, the post that I put up yesterday on high performance anxiety, all about anxiety struggles, it's, I think, possibly one of my most popular posts ever in Glasglow Girls Club. I know when I checked earlier today, it had somewhere close to 100 likes. So thank you, everybody. And that tells me that this subject obviously resonates with a lot of you out there. Now, it's an absolutely gorgeous evening outside, so I'm not sure how many of you are going to be joining me live, but if you are live, please pop a comment down below. Let me know that you're here watching live, and if you can't make the live, then why not send me a little hashtag replay with your comments. I'd be really keen to get your feedback to know if this has been yeah, I can see we're in there now. I'd be really interested to see what you've taken away from this session, whether it's been useful for you. So I really love you to let me know. And if you're here tonight, just give me a thumbs up. Show me some love. It's a hot Tuesday evening and here I am stuck in my office with you guys. So anyway, high performing anxiety has had a huge amount of interest, and you know what, it's something that is really close to my heart because I have had it, I have been through it, I have lived to tell the tale, and I am super keen to share my experiences with you and hopefully to help guide you as to the path out from high performing anxiety to being able to live a calm, controlled and peaceful life with the mayhem that goes around every day for most of us as really busy women. So anyway, what I'm going to be doing this evening is I will share with you what high performance anxiety, or sometimes known as high functioning anxiety, I'll share with you what it actually is so that we've got some clarity around that. We'll then go on and I will give you some insight so that you'll be able to tell whether or not you have it. So I've got a 9 tick box process for you, so hopefully you will listen into that and count along and see how many of the 9 you can identify with. And I'll also be sharing with you my 5-step process for dealing with high performance anxiety, and at the end I will share with you some super quick and easy hacks and techniques from step 1 of my 5-step process that will help you get started, maybe just give you some tips to get on your way to dial down some of that anxiety, to dial up some of the clarity, and to have some idea of things that you can get cracking on pretty much well away from tonight, and from tomorrow morning you should be able to put some of these into action. So anyway, if there's anybody who doesn't already know me in the Glasglow Girls group, then I'm Jean Fenwick. My business is Inner Wealth Coaching, and yeah, you know, I believe that life is to be enjoyed, not endured. that we should get as much enjoyment out of life as we possibly can and live happy lives, not just surviving and going through the motions and settling with life, but by really getting the most out of life and living amazing AF lives. Isn't that what we want? Now, I also love everything to do with neuroscience, and I have studied and certified in a number of different modalities. So NLP, mindset coaching, hypnosis, timeline therapy, and I also have a background as a Reiki practitioner, and I am super interested in anything to do with energy psychology, and I bring all of those practices into my coaching business. Now, as someone who had an anxious brain, I used to think that I was the only one that struggled. And, you know, I thought there was something wrong with me. Just a little bit of my background. So, and my journey with high performance anxiety. So at school, I was highly driven to succeed, you know, to pass exams, to do the very, very best I could, to please my parents with good results. I suppose I was always looking for that pat on the back to say, well done, good girl. And from those early days as a schoolgirl, a long time ago now, I got round to, I suppose, equating my self-worth and my value as a girl then and a woman later, with the results I was able to achieve. So that was where my connection came from. You know, if I was doing okay, if I was getting really good marks, everything was fine. And if I wasn't, I somehow felt that there was something wrong with me. And then when I left school, and I took that same pattern of behaviour and the beliefs that I had about myself into my workplace, well, you know, it only got worse. I don't know if any of you identify with this, but I had a real work ethic. You know, I really wanted to prove my worth, so I would work really long hours, and I was a perfectionist. So the perfectionist in me meant I'd often stay up late into the wee hours, planning, you know, my next day, working out what I would do, what I would say if they said that to me, and trying to figure out everything to be able to succeed and to get on. And I was crippled with anxiety and doubts about what people were thinking of me, and was I going to be okay? And I put so much store on what other people were thinking of me that somehow in there, you know, I kind of lost, I lost myself. I lost any idea of who I truly was. On the outside, you know, it probably seemed like I had everything under control. I was very, very good at impression management. You would never know there was anything wrong because I would always say everything was absolutely fine. And because I pushed myself so hard, and I suppose maybe there was a wee bit of talent in there as well along the way. After a few years, I did start to climb the corporate ladder. And by my mid-30s, I was running a fairly sizable team of people, and doing really, I suppose, reasonably well at work. However, this underlying high-performing anxiety that I had, and I know now what it was, although at that time I just knew I felt crap and I was struggling to cope and to prove myself and to figure out whether I was doing the right thing. A few years later, I just hit an absolute meltdown. I suppose you could call it a breakdown. You know, for some, they would say it was a breakdown, but, you know, now when I look back on it, I can see that it was actually a breakthrough for me. I was sitting at my desk, and one of the things I had to do, I was running a number of branches, and so I had a number of branches that used to send me their their receipts, their petty cash receipts. So this is something I had done numerous times. You know, I wasn't bad at figures and calculators. I could do it standing on my head. However, there was something that just hit, and I could not add up. I just couldn't make the figures. I couldn't make any sense of them. In fact, when I looked down at those petty cash receipts, they just seemed to be as if they were in a foreign language. And there was something desperately wrong. I could just feel my brain almost switch off. And I just had to give in at that point. I was seriously ill. And I had to take 3 months out to get myself well again. And all of the stress and anxiety that I had carried for years was just building up and building up and building up, and something had to give. And I'd just been running on empty, pushing myself far too hard for way too long. And so today I just love sharing with the women I coach and with as many women as I can how important it is to get a handle on that high performing anxiety, those feelings, those doubts, those insecurities, those fears as early on as possible, and to be able to find a way to process them rather than to get to the place that I was at where, you know, rather than address my anxiety, what I did was I just kept going. I just thought, I'll just push through, because pushing through and carrying on was what I had always done. I ignored the signs. I was drinking far too much. I was using food, and I was shopping. I was just anything I could use to numb the feelings that I had inside, I would use to reward myself and keep going. So I suppose for a long time, the writing was on the wall, if you like, but I was blind. I was blind. I just couldn't see it. But when I hit that brick wall and I took those 3 months off, I vowed that I would never let it happen again. So today, my lovelies, I am delighted to be able to let you know that I took care of myself, and the things that I've done personally to work on me, I'm really, really happy to share with other women. So let's just take, that's enough about me. So let's just take a look now at, what I call high performance anxiety, and what is also commonly known as high functioning anxiety. And I see it a bit like anxiety is like being on a spectrum. And high functioning anxiety is not recognised as a mental condition. And the reason for that is it does not interfere long term with our functioning in the normal world. However, it is just the start on a road and on that spectrum of anxiety. So if you like, with anxiety, you've got high functioning anxiety at one end, and that moves through general anxiety disorder to perhaps social anxiety disorder to full-blown panic attacks, and then on to chronic conditions like OCD at the extreme end of anxiety. Now, I would just like to say, if you suffer from any of those severe forms of anxiety which prevent you from functioning in the real world, then I urge you to get help from a doctor, to seek help from the medical profession, because they are qualified and able to use a variety of different interventions for you that will work, and they will be able to prescribe the type of medication that will help with anxiety. However, I'm assuming if you saw my post and you're here today, then you are probably functioning out there in the world, but you identified with that post that I put up. So let's have a look at what exactly is high functioning anxiety and see if you can identify with any of these. You're hardworking, you're detail oriented, you're high achieving, ambitious, perfectionist, you're well prepared, well organised, you appear calm on the outside, and you do really, really well so it seems, under pressure. So that's how it looks to the outside world. But then let's take a look at what's going on inside. Now, there are 9 of these, and what I'd like you to do is just count along with me and see how many of these 9 you can identify. You struggle with overthinking, overwhelm, feelings of burnout, you've got difficulty perhaps saying no, always needing to be busy, having unrealistic expectations, people pleasing, you fear failure, and you have self-doubt. So there's 9 in there, and I can see that somebody's watching, so if you're brave enough just to pop a comment in and let me know how many of the 9 you identify with, and that would be fantastic. And otherwise, if you're watching on catch up, likewise, I'd be really keen to find out from you which of those particular those particular incidences of anxiety you identify with as belonging to you. For me, I identify with all of them. I have got all 9, or had all 9, and certainly have had all 9, and can still have all 9, because anxiety is something that comes and goes. The difference is we just learn to deal with it. So what happens when we just focus on treating these symptoms? And when we try to stop all of the overthinking by constantly keeping ourselves busy and doing the things that I used to do, numbing feelings with alcohol, maybe other substances, scrolling through social media, keeping ourselves distracted. It's so easy these days to never get off our smartphones, isn't it? Maybe you binge watch on Netflix, or you binge eat far too much junk food. You know, if we choose to do all of these things, which are the go-tos, and I know because I speak to women with anxiety every single day, and I know that these are the coping mechanisms that we all can use to ignore what's going on, to just not think about things, to just numb everything down, and to just pretend that everything is okay when it really, really obviously isn't. And if we do that, we're only scratching the surface. And what we need to do is we need to get down deeper. We need to dig a bit deeper to what is really going on. And, you know, what are the thoughts? What are the feelings? What are the beliefs? What are the behaviours that are just going to keep coming back if all we're doing is a temporary solution, a short-term fix, the night of Netflix, or the bottle of wine to just get us to sleep, and then what happens? It's Groundhog Day, and we're just taking the same us into the same situation the next again day, and then the next again day, and the next again day, and insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. And that is what I did. I just kept on going until I hit that wall. Please don't let that happen to you. What we need to do is address it. Well, first of all, recognise it, then address it, and then do something about getting some really good alternative practices in that help us to heal, that help us to get well, that help us to thrive as well as survive, especially for those of you that are in, corporate jobs, or having a really, really busy work life, balancing that with a really busy family life, maybe a couple of kids, husband, dog, the whole lot. It is so, so difficult. And add on the extra anxiety that we've all had through lockdown, it's hardly surprised we find it difficult to cope. Now, you may not be surprised to find out that at the root cause of most of this behaviour is fear. Fear is at the root cause of most anxiety, and it's certainly at the root cause of the high performing anxiety. And the types of fears we high performing women have, huge one, I think this is maybe number one, is the fear of failure, the fear of making mistakes, closely followed by the fear of what other people think of us, that fear of judgment. You know, what will they say if I get it wrong? Fear of the unknown, the uncertainty. But what if this doesn't work? What if I go for the interview and I don't get the job? What if I don't get the promotion? What if nobody recognises me? What if I fluff my words? Oh gosh, going live is a big test of my ability to cope with my own high functioning anxiety, I can tell you. But you know, feel the fear and do it anyway, hey? Fear of being unworthy. I don't deserve this. Closely aligned with imposter syndrome, which is a huge one for us high performing women. You know, I've got here, but do I really deserve it? I'm not sure. Is this really me? Am I going to be found out? They're going to find out that I'm just a phony. I shouldn't really be here. And fear of just not being enough, whatever that enoughness is. I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not competent enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not thin enough, you know, yada, yada, yada. It goes for us women. We never feel that we're quite enough. And a huge part of the work that I do with women is to work on that feeling, that inner feeling of worthiness and feeling that we are enough just as we are. And we don't need to prove ourselves. And you know, when I learned that for myself, it was just like a huge revelation. And what I learned to do was to get out of the doing and getting the external validation from outside and starting to learn to get the validation from within. So if you like, finding that, whereas before I used to be so focused on what other people were thinking of me, I flipped it to then becoming a lot more focused on what I thought of myself. And there was a journey that I went on to get to that lovely inner place of peace. And it's a journey that I take women through with me, so that you too can get to that place of self-doubt, anxiety, not believing, wondering and wishing and fearing what anybody else is thinking of you, through a staged programme to come out the other end and think, you know what, I am truly worth it. You know, not from the externals, but from how we feel inside. And that is the greatest freedom, and it's the biggest gift, and it's why I suppose I chose to call my business Inner Wealth. So here's what we are trying to escape from when we use avoidance. So we have got the fear, and what happens on the cycle is we have fear, we avoid the fear, and then we have negative feelings about having avoided the fear, and then we take ourselves back into that same cycle over and over again. Fear, avoidance, self-negative talk. Fear, avoidance, self-negative talk. Beating ourselves up, in other words. Fear, avoidance, beating ourselves up. And that circle goes on and on and on unless we find a way to break it. So how to break it? I'm just looking at the time. We're 23 minutes in, so we're probably on time. I have got so much I could say on this subject. So hopefully I will be able to condense it into a little mini takeaway for you. So here's what people are commonly saying when they're struggling with high functioning anxiety. They avoid difficult situations and difficult emotions. They run away, and I know I did, from anxiety, fear, shame, guilt, nervousness, being annoyed, covering things up. We avoid situations where we feel we'll disappoint other people or we'll be viewed in a negative light. So we can find it hard to even admit our mistakes at times, possibly cover them up, or force situations so that we're seen in the very best possible light as possible. And that's why we sometimes work far, far too late and put so much extra stress on ourselves. And avoidance obviously looks like working far too late and all of the numbing ourselves that we've touched on before. However, the more we avoid, the bigger the fear gets. And the more and the bigger the fear gets and the more we avoid, then the bigger the emotional piece gets as well. And so it can get to that stage that I was at where it was just completely overwhelming for our brains and we can just shut down. Now, if you recognise the root of the behaviour and you start taking some simple steps to get out, then you can get balance, calm and peace in your life, as I've managed to do. So let me give you, I'll talk you through the 5-step plan that I have, and then I'll give you some takeaways from step 1 of that plan to get you going. So here is the thing. This is a process. You're not going to get a quick fire cure to anxiety. It takes work, and it takes work on yourself, and it takes the commitment to yourself that you really want to get well, that you want to do something about it. So here's my 5 steps. Step 1, you need to declutter your mind. You need to calm down. You need to calm everything down, and I'll share some steps with you and some of the easy peasy ways that we managed to do that on my programme. Step 2, you've got to rewrite the inner dialogue that you have with yourself so that you can feel calmer. Now, Marie Orleo says that the most important words are the words that we say to ourselves. And so, that is absolutely a huge part of starting to reprogram your unconscious mind by telling it the opposite stories from what you've been giving it up until now. And then you have to listen to your body and your mind and get your body working with your mind so that you can enjoy the journey. It's almost like tuning in and tuning back in and reconnecting back in that mind-body connection that has been probably lost for far too long when you've been living in your head and just numbing your body and numbing your feelings. And I use a wonderful tool in order to do this called EFT, Emotional Freedom Technique, and some of you may have come across it before, tapping. Step 4, we have practices to increase your confidence, increase your self-esteem, so that you can take healthy action and set boundaries. Enormous people pleasers. So we have to learn to say no. We have to learn to be kind to ourselves. We have to learn how to take the appropriate time for ourselves to get that balance between working hard and taking care of ourselves and putting ourselves at the forefront of our lives rather than at the background, putting the focus on everything else being right, everybody else being right, and our external image being absolutely perfect. So step 5 then is to identify your values, your core values, and this is hugely important, and it is a very, very powerful tool. And I work with clients on a values elicitation exercise where we get right down to discovering, what is really, really important to you in your life. What are your values? And by that I don't mean what you think your values should be, what you think society's values would want you to be, but really, what do you value? What is important to you? And that process is really enlightening, and it's very, very rewarding, because then as your values come into alignment, you find you have that internal motivation to drive your success and to drive your ultimate happiness. So whatever is going on outside, if you're living a life that is aligned with your values, then you can feel and experience that inner peace and that wonderful quality of inner calmness. And who doesn't want that in a busy world that we've got going around? So let's take a wee look at what we do in step one. And I've got for you this evening just a couple of the tools, techniques, mind hacks that I use in step one of that 5-step process with my clients. So first up is getting everything down and out of your brain, because your brain, if you have any form of high performing anxiety, is just stuffed full of things that have to be done. And you probably, if you're like me, I felt sometimes my head was just like a washing machine going round. So the first thing to do is to get everything down. We've got to calm everything down in step one. Get everything that is in your head down on paper. It could be everything that you've got to do. It could be the things that you're worried about, your thoughts, your emotions, what is stressing you, whatever it is, your fears. Get it all out. Get it down there. Get it out of your head and onto paper. And then we need to get you calm. We need to get your body in as calm a state as possible, using calming techniques every single day to help rebuild that mind-body connection, and also to calm down your parasympathetic processes and the connection between your mind and body, so that you are able to tap in more easily and more readily to that sense of calm whenever you want it. And there's a number of techniques to help with that, and you'll know some of them already. Meditation, mindfulness, yoga, journaling, all of these techniques are brilliant at helping. And a really, really quick one that is very simple to do is something I call the 3x3. And so if you ever feel that anxiety just building up and you want to get rid of it really quickly, is just sit quietly, and this can take just 2 minutes. And what I invite you to do is just connect in with your senses. Just connect in and see if you can notice 3 things that you are observing or that you can see. So 3 things with your eyes. And what we're doing is we're bringing in the senses. So you notice 3 things that you can see, 3 things that you can hear, and 3 things that you can feel. And very, very quickly, because we're interrupting the pattern of the brain, which can only hold one thing in there at any given time, on our attention, that has our attention. So brain focuses on one thing at the time that has our attention. So by looking at 3 things, by then tuning into 3 things we can hear, and tuning in to 3 things we can feel, we then dial down those feelings of anxiety, and it can bring us right back into the present moment, right back into now. And just taking deep breaths can really, really help us just calm that moment down. You know, deep breathing is there for a reason. It works. It absolutely works. And if you do nothing else, I absolutely implore you to work on developing at least 3 minutes each day of just taking in and focusing in on deep breathing into your belly, just putting your hand on your tummy and making sure that the air is coming in and not shallow up in your chest, but that you're breathing down, and as the air comes in, feel your hand move out, and as the air goes out as you exhale, feel your hand come back into your tummy, and that deep breathing will instantly calm you down. But you know, there's much more that we need to do to get that busy head sorted. And another of the exercises that I do with everybody in all of my programs, and it's the thing that probably worked the best for me in the beginning, was to set up my daily rituals. Now, I worked with a coach. I was really lucky when I had that breakdown. I worked with a fantastic mentor and coach who really encouraged me to do what she called, power up your day and wind down in the evening. So by that, what she asked me to do was to spend just 10 minutes on me at the beginning of the day. And I never did that. Alarm went off, I was up in the shower, teeth cleaned, and I was at it. I never gave any thought to spending any time at all on me at the beginning of the day. So just spending 10 minutes to begin with, right at the beginning of the day. If you need to set your alarm a wee bit earlier, then that's good. But make sure that's time for you. Certainly get up before the kids, get up before all the mayhem happens, and just give yourself that 10 minutes. Precious time, me time, you time. Use that time to reflect and set your intention for the day. What do you want the day to be like? What do you want to bring to the day? What type of energy do you want to bring to the day? Bring in the power of your wonderful imagination and visualize the day going as well as it could possibly go. And you know what? Your unconscious mind, which runs 90% of you, cannot tell the difference between something that's real and something that's imagined. So if you imagine the day working out well, guess what? Your unconscious mind will be looking out for evidence to show you those things showing up in your day. And it works almost as magic. It's part of the law of attraction, but it is also deeply rooted in neuroscience. So setting your intention, creating your vision, you visualizing the day ahead of you will really help you get off to a damn good start. And next, get some movement in. I talked about yoga before. Whatever it is, just when you've had that 10 minutes, get out, walk the dog, take some fresh air, even if it's just standing in the garden for a few minutes, connecting in with nature, look up to the sky, kick your shoes off and just stand in the grass. That's my morning routine these days in the summer, is I just go out into my garden on the grass in my bare feet and look up at the sky and just connect in with the day. And take a power pose. That's the other wonderful thing you can do really quickly, is just do a power pose. Legs apart, hands up, look up, huge smile, and that changes your state immediately. But get your day off to a good start. It sounds to some people as crazy woman throwing your arms up in your garden in your bare feet. But you know what? These things work. Just try them. But most importantly, take the time for you, because you know you are worth it. You need to almost start off by carving out tiny little sections of the day just for you, to build in the self-care and to build in the fact that you are really worth it. And at the end of the day, do the reverse. Wind down routine. Find a bedtime that works for you and stick to it. Now that could be 10 o'clock, it could be 11 o'clock, it could be midnight, whatever is right for you. But have that as your bedtime and stick to it. I feel a wee bit like a school teacher when I get on to this, but it so works, and it's really worth it. And the other great technique, and you've probably read about this one anyway, is switch off all of your devices an hour before bed. Just use that time. Doesn't necessarily need to say that you have to have a full hour of wind down. But at least if your devices are off, that is signalling, if you do that repetitively and often enough, it's signalling to your unconscious mind that something is happening now. We're setting up a signal that we are now getting ready for bed. And then when you do that and stick to that bedtime, even if you do nothing else, you won't be scrolling through social media, then you are setting up really good, constructive habits that will serve you. And then what we do in the rest of the programme is we layer on lots and lots of different techniques and strategies to give you a whole package of things that will transform you from an overstressed, overburdened, overwhelmed, freaked out, high performance and anxious woman to someone that's calm, confident and in control the majority of the time. Because guess what? Life happens. Nothing is perfect. And as perfectionists, as women, that is the last thing that we have to recognise. Good is enough. We don't have to be perfect. Just get to the stage of being that you are comfortable with doing your best, and your best will always be good enough. Now, if you have enjoyed this, it would be great to hear from you, and if you're keen to find out more about how you can join my programme for anxiety, I call it Anxiety Annihilator, then I have 4 slots opening up in August. It's a 4-week programme with one-to-one 1-hour coaching with me, and there is a whopping rate 20% discount if you are a Glasgow Girls member. So if you are interested, just pop me a message and I can give you more details on pricing, timings and exactly what the programme will include. And if you have enjoyed this and you would just like to find out a little bit more about that 5-step programme and the stages that are included, again, just drop me a message. I've got an easy peasy 1-page PDF that explains the 5 steps to you if you want to do some work on it yourself. If you're not ready to work with a coach or a programme, there's some guidance in there of the various stages that you would need to go through. I'm really happy to share that. Just drop me a comment down below. I'll be happy to send you the PDF. And great, so I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you've got something out of it. You've learned a bit more about high performance anxiety and a little bit about some of the steps that you can take. I urge you, do not get to the stage I got to. It is not worth it, but you are absolutely worth more than that. So I wish you good luck on your journey. Thank you for joining me. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Bye bye.